Welcome back to this Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching Closing Bell with me, Nandita, Khemka.
And I'm Yatin, Mota.
Well, Yatin, volatility again set in today on the Wall Street, given the fact that we, ended around that 19,800 mark. But there was, quite a lot of volatility when it comes to the large caps today. If you look at the mid caps, they have come off from the day's high, but the small cap index did show, resilience and ended high by about 0.5% or thereabouts. Sectorally, no points for guessing. IT was the big laggard today. In fact, TCS numbers was something that played spoil sport on the street today. So if you look at the Nifty losers, most of the losers on the Nifty index were, from the IT pack. So you have HCL Tech Mahindra, TCS, Infosys ahead of the numbers, will be out anytime soon. And, so those were some of the top laggards. If you look at other names that were on the losing end, we had Cipla as well as UPL as well. That stock has been quite a bit of an underperformer, and it has resumed its downward journey, right? If you look at the gainers today, you have BPCL, the fact that crude has cooled off to $85 per barrel mark. We saw BPCL staging a good comeback. We have the likes of Maruti, Coal India, NTPC, Grasim, the company will be considering or reviewing fundraising plans. So that stock also, I think it hit a fresh 52-week high as well in today's session. If you look at the other sectors that were doing well today, media, index was up somewhere around 3%. Energy was a close second, up 1% or thereabouts, and autos as a pocket didn't do all that badly either. But let's look at the broad end of the markets and some of the movers and shakers from that end, Yatin.
Absolutely, and if you look at the mid-cap index, both of the mid-cap indexes, ended in the green, and the small-cap index obviously outperforming with 0.5% gains coming in. Today, before I talk about the shakers and movers, the Plaza Cable IPO saw some good traction. The IPO was priced at 54 rupees per share, and the shares settled finally at 80 rupees. So, almost 50% gain coming in for that particular stock on the IPO debut. Now, the gainers list is long in the mid-cap segment. We have MMTC, that PSU was up 20%. Linde India, the stock was up 14%. And Network 18, the entity which houses Moneycontrol, that stock was up 12%. NAM India, which is AMC company, which is Nippon Asset Management, that stock was up 8%, and Motilal Oswal also gaining by nearly 8%. What was not doing well is the likes of Lakshmi Chemicals, SW Solar, Tech Mahindra. In fact, Nandita, if you look at Infosys' intraday chart, there was a sudden collapse in the last 5 minutes of trade, and the stock hit a fresh intraday low. So the entire IT pack was in pressure after TCS's weak numbers. What was doing well, apart from all of these stocks that I mentioned, was the likes of NMDC, GAIL, Sirma, Philip Carbon. All of these stocks hitting fresh 52-week highs and were up anywhere between 4 to 5%.
Right, those were the movers and shakers in today's session, but let's quickly get down to what to expect from Infosys, given the fact that the numbers will come out anytime post 3:45. So if you look at the numbers, no major fireworks expected here as well. Remember, TCS has largely set a very muted tone when it comes to the revenue growth, unimpressive, to say the least, and the same is expected from Infosys as well. Dollar revenues may grow at 0.8% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. If you look at the profit growth, the expectations are ranging from 4.7 to 4.8% growth on the profit front on a quarter-on-quarter basis. CC revenue growth likely to remain, similar to the first quarter levels at around 0.9 to 1%, and of course, as I mentioned, revenue growth is likely to be tepid because the discretionary spends, the discretionary demand of course has been pretty weak, and the weak demand is expected to weigh in on the Infosys's first quarter performance as well. In fact, most of the IT majors are likely to see muted revenue growth given the fact that the spends, consumer discretionary spends are likely to remain weak. But for Infosys in particular, margins are likely to expand by 50 basis points given the fact that there were no wage hikes in the quarter in this quarter, and effective date of wage hike is something that the street will of course be watching out for. In terms of guidance, the company is expected to retain its guidance that it had given in the last quarter, 1% to 3.5%, but there are some pockets or some analysts who expect that they may narrow that range to 2 to 3.5%. So that's something that happens. I think that could be a positive surprise when it comes to the Infosys numbers. Key monitoring deliverables, of course, commentary on demand environment, ramp up of deal timelines, and whether or not these large deals will be margin dilutive in the near term or not. That's something that the street will be watching out for. Aside of that, as I mentioned, effective date for wage revision is something that, of course, we will be watching out for. But if you look at the howler of a quarter that it saw in the last quarter in Q1, since then the stock is up somewhere around 7%, Yatin, in the last 3 months. So now, if there is some tweak in the low end of the guidance, maybe we could see some bit of fireworks in trade tomorrow.
Absolutely, and I think it's something tricky and anybody's guesswork. And in a few minutes from now, we'll have the Infosys results coming in. HCL Tech also reports numbers very soon. But Nandita, you spoke about Infosys estimates, but TCS probably delivered a quarter which was quite disappointing, especially in terms of the revenue growth, wherein the revenue growth was down. In fact, Citi has a sell call on TCS with a target of 3170. Despite the fact that there was a buyback of 17,000 crores announced by TCS at a price of 4150 via tender route, the shares dipped nearly 2% intraday. And TCS stock almost ended at the day's low. Now, Citi says that the last 3 quarters have been largely flat quarter on quarter, and the deal wins at $11.2 billion largely include the known transactions like BSNL and JLR. So if you look at the order book also, that has not been that great. As I said, revenue growth was not that good. And if you look at the third point, which is the attrition or the headcount decline, right. Because of that, probably the street expects that in the short term also the management doesn't seem to see that execution will improve or the client sentiment would improve. That is an indicator that probably demand is going to remain soft in the near term. So on all counts, probably TCS disappointed, and that is the reason why the stock ended almost at the day's low despite announcing a buyback.
Right, even buyback failed to bring some kind of cheer when it comes to the stock performance. But let's also take a look at Zomato, Yatin. I think every other day we tend to talk about Zomato, but the thing is that the stock is up 80% on a YTD basis, and of course it is riding the World Cup wave. So the stock does deserve mention, and we have had brokerage reports over the last few days. Yesterday we had ICICI Sec come out with a report. They have revised their target price higher to about 160 or thereabouts, if I'm not mistaken. So that, and today we had a Kotak report, and that's also a very upbeat report coming in. They have raised the target price to 125 rupees or so. The stock is already trading around 110 rupees, Yatin. And Kotak, if you look at particularly what Kotak has to say, they say that the gross merchandise value has already bottomed out in Q1 at 14%, and from the second quarter it is only expected to improve. In fact, for FY24, FY25 and FY26, they see the GMV growth estimate at 18%, which is close to 20%, so which is a good thing, right? And in fact, higher revenue estimates have driven profit upgrade to somewhere around 10 to 30% for FY24 to FY26. Yatin. And ICICI Sec, as I said yesterday, had come out with a report, and 160 is the target it's looking at, and it believes that improved visibility of profitability is something that will aid the stock going forward. Of course, remember last quarter they reported their first profit of 2 crore rupees. So of course the path to profitability, in fact we have already hit the path to profitability when it comes to Zomato, and now if the GMV growth is strong or it improves in the second quarter, the earnings will of course be even better than what the company saw in the last quarter. So yeah, on a YTD basis, stock up 80%, and of course it continues to ride the World Cup wave. Absolutely, and tomorrow is Friday. Nandita is ordering some food for on Saturday. I am ordering because we have the India-Pakistan match, and I can't wait for it. So yes, we'll be watching out for the Infosys results, which should be out anytime soon, and probably you will get some updates on the Moneycontrol website as soon as we analyze the results for you first cut. Right, and we'll also be getting you coverage of the post analysis of the numbers once they come out, and we'll be cutting across to the press conference as well. But with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Closing Bell. Stay tuned for, tune in for the Infosys earnings coverage. But for now, it's a goodbye from us. Keep watching Moneycontrol for all your other news and updates.